Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really big question, isn't it?
It really is.
We're looking at the future of Asia, specifically asking whether India or China might emerge as, the leading power by 2050.
Yeah, a huge time frame and a huge region.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got some fascinating source material here. It looks at, well, pretty much everything: economies, populations, tech, influence, all that stuff.
Right. So the idea isn't to gaze into a crystal ball. The sources don't really do that.
No.
What they do is lay out the current situation, the trends, the potential trajectories, I suppose.
So our job really is to unpack all that, understand the key factors, the different ways things could play out based on what we're seeing in these sources. Not predict, just explore.
Precisely. Understand the dynamics.
Okay, so let's jump in. The economy seems like the obvious starting point. And the sources, well, they're pretty clear, aren't they? China's economy is bigger right now.
Oh, yeah, substantially bigger. Built on decades of massive manufacturing output and, huge domestic sales, too.
That's the baseline. But then the sources pivot to India's growth. Rapid, really rapid.
And there's serious talk in the sources about India potentially becoming the world's third largest economy by, well, around that 2050 mark we're discussing.
And what I find really interesting is how they're growing differently. China's got this, established industrial machine.
Yeah, tried and tested model.
But India,
Yeah.
the sources seem to suggest its momentum is coming from somewhere else.
Right.
New businesses popping up everywhere. A lot of young entrepreneurs.
That's a really key distinction the sources draw out. This entrepreneurial energy, this boom in startups, it's a different kind of economic engine.
And we're also seeing more companies setting up shop in India, right?
Yeah.
Investing there.
Definitely. The sources mention that trend. It suggests maybe a potential shift in where global business sees future growth. China's model has been incredibly successful, no doubt.
Absolutely.
But India's path, focused on these newer sectors, maybe offers a different kind of dynamism for the decades ahead. It's a possibility the sources raise.
And that connects nicely to the people side of things, the demographics, both India and China. I mean, massive populations. Everyone knows that.
Colossal.
But there's a shift happening, isn't there? The sources highlight that India's populations is now, on average, younger. A larger group of young people.
Yeah, that's a major point. India now has this demographic dividend, people call it. More working age people relative to dependents.
So what does that mean, practically speaking, for this whole leadership question?
Well, potentially, it's a huge boost. A larger workforce can drive economic growth, increase innovation, boost consumption, all that good stuff.
Potentially.
Exactly. Potential is the key word. The sources also kind of implicitly ask the question, can India actually create the education systems, the jobs, the infrastructure to really leverage this young population? That's the big unknown.
Right. It's not automatic. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Technology, another huge area. The sources point to China's obvious strengths: manufacturing, electronics. I mean, look where your phone was probably made.
Yeah, their hardware dominance is, well, it's pretty undeniable in many sectors.
But India, the sources highlight its power in software, in IT services, a different kind of tech strength.
It is. And it's fascinating, isn't it? You have this potential dynamic: China's hardware muscle, India's software brain. Could they work together, compete fiercely?
Or both.
Or both, yeah. It makes you wonder which side of that tech coin, the making stuff or the coding stuff, will be more, I suppose, strategically vital going forward.
Good question. And the sources actually give some pretty compelling examples of India's talent pool here. They mention Indians leading huge global tech firms, right? Google, Microsoft. Even NASA gets a mention.
Yeah, that's not insignificant. It shows a deep capability, not just providing IT support, but real innovation and leadership at the highest levels.
So how does that specific strength, that digital prowess, feed into India's potential influence, its power down the line?
Well, it suggests India could be a major shaper of the digital future, not just adopting technology, but actually creating it, setting standards, driving innovation globally. That carries a lot of weight.
Okay, so we've got economy, demographics, technology. Let's try and pull this together a bit and look at the bigger picture. Geopolitical power, influence in Asia. Where do the sources say things stand now?
Right now, the consensus in the sources seems to be that China holds, well, more overall power in the region, reflecting its economic size, its military investments, things like that.
That makes sense based on the current situation.
But, and it's an important but, the sources also consistently point to India's rising profile. Its strategic importance is growing. Lots of countries see India as an increasingly important partner.
So it's not static.
Not at all. It's very dynamic. The balance is clearly shifting, or at least has the potential to shift significantly.
There was an analogy in one of the sources I really liked. It compared them to two very fast runners.
Ah, yes, I remember that.
Yeah, like different bills, maybe different specialties. One might be a sprinter, faster out of the blocks, maybe better on the flat. The other might have more endurance, maybe better on hills, or have a stronger finishing kick. Something like that.
It's a good analogy because it gets away from a simple who's ahead idea.
Exactly. What does that tell us about how we should think about this?
It tells us it's complex, right? Each nation has unique strengths, unique challenges. China's speed and infrastructure versus India's demographic potential, maybe. The leader isn't necessarily the one who's fastest now, but maybe the one best suited for the whole race, the one that adapts best.
Adapts to the changing track conditions, maybe.
Yeah, adapting to the changing global environment, exactly. Leveraging strengths, managing weaknesses.
So if we try to synthesize this, pull out the main threads from the sources. What are the big takeaways?
Well, first, clearly we're talking about two incredibly powerful nations, both with significant, though different, advantages. That's undeniable. Second, this is not a static picture. It's fluid. Things are changing constantly. China's evolving. India's evolving. It's not like one stops running while the other catches up.
So future leadership in Asia, it's not just going to be handed over.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be shaped by this ongoing interplay of economic shifts, demographic changes, tech breakthroughs, political decisions, all of it together.
And it's interesting. One source really emphasized that India's rise isn't like inevitable just because of its demographics or growth rate.
That's a crucial point.
He mentioned things like good leadership, keeping the peace internally, working well with other countries. That stuff matters just as much.
Absolutely. The sources remind us, implicitly or explicitly, that the soft factors, governance, stability, diplomacy, social cohesion, are just as critical as the hard factors like GDP or military spending. You can have a great engine, but you need a good driver and a clear road, right?
Yeah, good way to put it. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, based on what the sources are telling us, we've looked at the economies, the people, the tech, the power dynamics between India and China heading towards 2050.
It's clear both are major contenders, huge forces shaping Asia's future.
Definitely. So it leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to maybe chew on. When we talk about a nation being a leader in a place as diverse and complex as Asia, what does that really mean?
Yeah, beyond just having the biggest economy or the most advanced tech, what constitutes leadership in that context? And thinking beyond the factors we've covered today from the sources economic, demographic, technological, geopolitical, what other elements, maybe less obvious ones, do you think could play a decisive role in shaping who leads and how in Asia over the next few decades? What else might tip the balance?